The Atheist. This is a short story by Walter Macken. It's from a 1956 collection called The Green Hills and Other Stories. He was a pale and sickly boy. The fact was that it was regarded as a miracle he had survived into his 7th year. His mother said it was prayer alone that had made him live. He was a 7th son. His 6 brothers were tall and healthy and lusty, and their instinct was, like animals, to despise the weakling in the flock. His mother adored him. She would have given all the other 6 for him. His father was tall and black and a good worker. He felt bewildered when he looked at his 7th son. He felt that little Joe was a sort of reflection on him, but he was kind to him. In the country district where they lived on a tidy farm that fed and clothed them, men who had died at the age of 90 were thought of as being taken in the prime of life. They told the story of the mother and father who came back from the funeral of their son and sat over the fire sorrowing. The son had died at the age of 72. The husband speaks. He says, "Oh, Maggie, I told you when he was born that we would never rear him." In a long-lived, healthy place like this, the little boy was an anomaly. He was a freak. The hard winters should have killed him off long ago. He seemed to be holding on to life with the greatness of his eyes. His eyes looked very big because his face and body were so emaciated. He coughed a terrible lot in the winter. It was his tubes, they said. They said it would have been better if God had taken him long ago. He will never age, they said. His mother thought he was a little saint, because suffering had laid a mark of patience on him. She never remembered him crying. He seemed to be intelligent beyond his years. He withstood unkindness and jeers from his healthy brethren as if it was part of living, so that teasing him lost its sting. One day he wandered away from his own place. Down the flint road he went on his thin legs. It was summertime, and the sun was shining. He had never been that far afield before, but his mother was the only one at home. All the rest were in the hayfield. The road ran down a hill and wound around until it became a crossroads. He went left here on a worse road that went into a valley between 2 hills and then rose up, carving its way ever upwards beside a river that ran in pools and jagged rocks that it had indecently exposed from the flanks of the hill. It took him quite a time. He sat down often on the grassy verges, and he played with the small stones, or he scuffed his bare toes in the dust, making little mounds of it and blowing the mounds away. On each side of the road, the hillside stretched away deep in heather and wet boggy places that never dried. Small mountain sheep sometimes ran away from the road in front of him. Up and up he went, unnoticing, and he topped the hill and went down on the other side, and then wandered off into a small road bordered by fuchsia hedges that had gained a hold in that bleak place. The ground was damp under his feet, and then he stood petrified as the huge dog came bounding from in front of him and stood there snarling and growling menacingly. The little boy felt cold things in his back. The dog showed no mercy. He was a very wicked dog. He was advancing snarling when the voice stopped him. The man was much bigger than the dog. He was nearly as frightening. He seemed to be as hairy. The dog was brown and black, and the man seemed to be the same. His clothes were brown and black, and his face was brown and black, with a close-trimmed beard on him. He cuffed the dog. "Be quiet," he said to the dog. He looked at the boy. The boy didn't feel any fear of the man. The man saw a pitifully thin body with matchstick legs, and a head that seemed very big because the brown hair wanted to be cut, and a thin, thin face under terrible big eyes. If the man felt anything in his heart, it didn't show in his eyes. "Hello," he said. "The dog won't bite you. He only barks. Come and put your hand on him." The boy looked at him and then advanced obediently. He stretched a skinny hand and laid it on the dog's head. The dog growled and struggled a bit under the strong hand that held the fur on his neck. Then he submitted. The man noticed that the dog and the boy were the same height. "Who are you?" the man asked. I'm Joe, the boy said. "Who are you of?" the man asked. The boy pointed back the way he had come. "From there," he said. "Does your mother know you walked?" Joe considered this. "I don't think so. She maybe didn't see me." "That's bad," said the man. "Come up, and we'll consider it." He reached his thick hand out, and the boy put his own confidently into it. The man thought it was like feeling the claw of a chicken. The hand was so thin. Round the bend, his house was. Joe thought it was only half as big as his mother's house. There was a fire in there. The man put him sitting on a low stool in front of the fire. "You'll drink milk," the man said, and put a mug of it on the hob in front of him. Joe drank some of the milk. He had to use his two hands to raise the heavy mug to his face. He ate a bit of bread and butter, too, but the man saw that he was only picking at it. "If you're right now," the man said, "we'll take you home." They walked down the road together. The man had to slow his pace. When they were halfway to the cross, Joe had a fit of coughing. He sat down on the road to cough and held his hands to his chest. It didn't last long. The man just stood there looking down at him, clenching his hands. When the coughing was over, he bent down and raised Joe into his arms and walked ahead with him. "See that fella, Joe? That's a hawk. Watch him swinging on the air. Now he'll dive. After a bird he is. That thing? That's a dirty old gray crow. Gray crows is no damn good, Joe. In the snow on the hills, when the sheep are bogged, they swoop and pluck out their eyes. Isn't that terrible? And they are bad on the lambs, too." Joe thought it was nice riding on the big man's arms. He could see miles down into the valleys where the lakes were and the houses. He was like a bird, but not an old gray crow. When they neared his own place, he saw his mother at the gate. She came running. She was very anxious. She took him from the man. There were tears in her eyes. "Where were you? Where were you?" she cried. "I thought you were dead on me. I thought you were dead on me indeed." "He went wandering, ma'am," the man said. "I found him up outside my place." "But that's miles," she exclaimed. "But that's miles and miles. Oh, Joe." "He's a stout man," the man said. "Aren't you, Joe? Goodbye now." He held out his hand. Joe reached out his own. "Goodbye," he said. "Can I see the dog again?" The man looked at his mother. She was avoiding his eyes. "We'll see, Joe," he said, and then he turned on his heel and went away. She fussed over him terribly. When his father and brothers came home, she told them all. "What?" said the father. "Old Peter? He shouldn't have gone near him. That old atheist? Keep away from him, do you hear? That's a bad man, that old Peter. No respect for church or chapel, and eating meat on Fridays. You keep away from old Peter, you hear?" It passed over Joe's head. Joe had had an adventure. He had been out in the world. He thought of the dog and the man and the gray crows. It did him good, his mother said. He had a bit of color in him. Maybe I keep him too close. There's no harm him being out a bit more, his father said, as long as he keeps away from that old atheist. It happened that Joe wandered away many a day after that, and he always, or nearly always, seemed to meet up with Peter and the bad dog. His mother lost her palpitations when he was absent. He always came home. She thought he was looking better. She thought maybe his eyes were getting smaller. "What is an atheist?" Joe asked one day when he was sitting beside the dog, and the two of them buried in the blooming purple heather. There was a pause before Peter answered him. An atheist is a man, Joe, who doesn't believe in God, he said. Daddy said that you were a good man, and then you went away, and something happened to you out foreign, and when you came back, you were an atheist. And he says that's very bad. And I don't know, but I think you're good. And if you are an atheist, couldn't I be one too? He was breathless after that. It was a long speech. Peter turned over on his belly to answer him. He took time over it. It's hard, Joe, he said. Terrible things can happen to a man to change the whole course of his thinking. Great sorrow can happen to a man, or great bitterness. That's one thing. Your father doesn't mean that. He means, because nobody sees me in the little church below, that I am a bad man. See, Joe, you look down there below, at the small town and the trees with the leaves falling off them, and the lake and all the islands lying under the sun, and then over this side you look and you see the mountains going down and the sea out beyond. It is blue and gray and stretching away until it meets the bottom of the clouds. You see all that? I do, said Joe. Well, God is all that, said the gray man with the deeply lined face. And when you see a lamb trying to walk, or even an old gray crow killing, or heather with color in it, or the sun shining or the rain falling, God is in that, in the bark of a dog, or the cry of a wild goose, or the whistle of a flighting duck, or in the eyes of a boy. God is in that, Joe. Do you understand that? No, said Joe. You will, said Peter. You will. But he was thinking that unless Joe got more meat on him or more color in him, that he would meet God sooner than any other thing. And his heart was very heavy, because ever since he had allowed the big-eyed boy to break into his own terrible and self-inflicted loneliness, he had watched over him as you would a weak dog of a litter or a tottering lamb of a flock. He had become very fond of him, and he knew this was wrong. He never meant to become fond again of a single living thing. It was unfortunate that Joe's father was at the lip of the road that day when he took him home. He stood there watching them coming down the hill, the very big, virile man with the bitter face, and the changeling, as he would one time have called him. Now he was the affliction of God. Anger rose in him at the sight, in unexplainable anger, the glaring contrast of opposites, and because Peter was a man nobody now understood, who went away from them and kept away as if they all had a disease. Where were you? He asked angrily. Your mother was worried about you. Where were you? He didn't give him time to answer. He reached out a hard hand and hit him a cuff on the big head. The boy fell down. There was patient surprise in his eyes. He hadn't meant to hit him. He was a kind man. His action now drove him almost frantic with anger. Never again up the hill, he cried. Never again up the hill, you hear? He was glaring at Peter. He didn't know how close he had come to being battered himself. Peter was white about the nostrils. His nails had bitten into his palms. He bent down and raised the boy to his feet. Go on home, Joe, he said. Goodbye. He watched him for a moment, and then he turned and went away. Joe's father was sweating with anger and mortification. His legs were trembling. He sat in a rock. His wife came from the house. She was rubbing her hands on an apron. She was crying. Why did you do it? Why did you do such a cruel thing? What's got into you? What's got into you at all? He got to his feet. Leave me alone. Leave me alone, for the love of Almighty God, he shouted at her, and he strode wildly toward the turnip field. So Joe didn't go up the hill again. Not until one day in January. He had been very sick before Christmas, and this time everybody said he will surely die. But he didn't, and they sent him to school. It was his first time at school. When they let them loose in the playground for the break, Joe was terrified at the cruelty of the young children who were in the same class. It seemed to be instinctive with a lot of them to turn on him the minute they got out. Pinch and puck and names. Joe couldn't understand it. He didn't cry, because he never did. But he didn't go back in again when the bell rang. His heart was beating very fast. He went away from the school and up the hill. He didn't go in to his mother. He went past his own gate and on up the hill. This was the first time he'd gone up the hill since his father had told him not to. He was sure he would meet the dog and Peter. He was breathless when he came to the gaunt, bare fuchsia bushes. He went up the lane and the door was locked and silent. So he turned past the house and went on into the mountains. It was very cold. People would never forget the cold of that January. No old person had ever heard of the like of it or seen it. The snow started to fall about 3 o'clock. Joe wasn't missed until all his brothers came home from school. Where's Joe? Isn't he at home? No. Why didn't you wait for him? Well, he wasn't there. We thought he had come home. His mother's heart sank. Her mouth was dry. Go and get your father. She ran down herself to the school. It was closed. She called at the teacher's. He didn't know anything. Little Joe hadn't come back after the break. He didn't know why. Little Joe, he told her, is a very intelligent child. I can do great things with him. She was frantic now. The father tried to calm her. She wouldn't be calmed. The dinner was neglected on the hob. He might be with that Peter, said the father. She ran. The door was closed. The house was silent. Send him back to me, she prayed. Send him back to me now. The snow was falling quite thickly. The sky was the color of copper. The father came with Peter. Peter had an ass with a bag of flour on its back and provisions. I was in town, he told them, getting things. He might have come here for all I know. I wasn't here. They told him as much as they knew. Then they ran away again down to the town. Somewhere he must be. Somebody must have taken him in. Peter sat down and thought, and then he left the house and turned up to the mountain. If he came, and I wasn't here, he would go on, up to the top maybe where we used to sit, and look down at the town and the sea. The snow was swirling. It was like fog. Fog on a mountain is a dreadful thing. There's no sense of direction. You can walk and end up where you started. He called out, Joe, Joe, in a loud voice. The dog was beside him. Find Joe, he said to the dog. The dog looked at him. Go on, find Joe, he said. The dog set off. If it was a sheep or lamb, he thought the dog might find him, but he has no scent for a human being. There could be no tracks. Even if there were tracks, they would be blotted out as soon as they were made by the wind and the flakes. He went up and up. Sometimes the wind blew away and he could see the top, so he had a sense of direction. But he had to walk warily because the snow rested gently on deep bog holes that would swallow you, ones that you knew like the palm of your hand in ordinary times, even on black nights. If he came up here, he is lost, he thought, and clenched his teeth. It took him 2 hours to reach the top. He could only guess he was at the top from the strength of the wind coming from the sea. He stood there and called again, Joe, Joe. But the wind took his words and swept them away. The dog had left him. He didn't know where the dog was for the past hour. Then he heard him barking. Joe was glad to feel the wet muzzle of the dog in his face, even though he thought it was a dream and the dog was nuzzling him awake from a dream. He was burrowed into a cleft that was made by a dip and heather overhead. He hadn't much snow on him, but he was very cold. He had gone there for shelter when the snow started to fall, and then when he thought about the gray crows, he had buried his face in his arms so they wouldn't see his eyes if he was trapped like the sheep. He might even have started to go home when the snow fell, but he was awful afraid of the gray crows and that they would pluck out his eyes. He was very pleased to feel the strong arms lifting him. The door was closed, he told him, and I thought maybe you'd be up the hill looking at God. Take it easy, Peter said. The face was flushed, the eyes were too bright. He stripped off his own short coat and waistcoat, and he wrapped them around him. The snow felt cold on his shirt. We're off home now, Joe, he said. It took 3 hours to get down. The dog didn't know his way. The swirling snow was too impenetrable. They must have walked the same way 4 times. You'd think all you had to do was to travel on the fall, but for all you knew, you might be on the fall of the other side and be traveling toward the sea, because the wind shifted. You had to keep it in your back, but sometimes you would feel it in your face and didn't know whether it had shifted a bit or if you had changed your direction. Sometimes one leg went to the thigh in bog, and he had to throw himself back with the boy high in his arms and pull his leg from the muck. He couldn't use his arms to free himself. There was no weight in Joe, but after 3 hours there seemed to be the body of a grown man in his arms. He didn't really mind. All he wanted to do was to get Joe home. He did. They sent for the doctor. Peter waited until the doctor came, and then he turned back to his own house. He was shivering. He didn't think Joe would survive it, and he wanted to offer his own body the strength of it, so that Joe could have some of it. But there's no way you can do that, is there? Peter felt feverish the next morning. There was lassitude in his limbs. He put up a great fight. Or did he? Anyhow, it only took him 4 days to die. The doctor said he didn't want to live, you'd think. Joe's mother never closed an eye, watching and tending in his house, but nothing could save him. Joe grew. Even when he grew bigger, there was hardly a day that didn't pass by the house at the butt of the mountain. The door was rotten and sagging. The thatched roof had fallen in. Joe never was robust, but Joe never forgot. Peter was always a song in his head, and he never failed to see him from the top of the hill. The Atheist by Walter Macken.